Hoi hoi! It's louisity again, and for this video I'm going to be talking about my great reads of 2020. Hoorah! So, I know 2020, it's been one of the most difficult years in terms of my reading. I think, I had more of like good reads or great reads. So, yes, I think overall my reading year is decent. It's pretty good. It's great. So, I'm going to be talking about now the great reads that I read in 2020. So, these are books that got a rating of 4.5 and above out of 5 stars. So, now what I noticed is that this year I did have like a 5-star, like full 5-star read for like the new reads, but that is okay because I still got some awesome reads to talk about. So let's begin. So let's begin with a 4.5 out of 5-star reads with Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. Now, if you've been watching videos from my channel for quite a while, I already have a book review of this one, which I'll be linking down below. And to sum it all up, what I like about this book is how, the way that they describe governance and, the struggles and challenges that Juliet Farrar's faced were a lot different compared to like the earlier books, especially Shatter Me and Unravel Me. I think this book really highlighted about gave a very vivid imagery of the reestablishment, the world, the setting, and how challenging it is, and how it really focuses on governance, which I think that is what I sign up for when it comes to a lot of dystopian novels. Now, pretty much, governance is pretty much what I'm looking for. So I got it here, and yep, I'm pretty much satisfied, and it's an amazing reading experience. The next one is The Nightingale, written by Kristin Hannah. Now, I read this because it was Readable's book club book of the month for, I believe, November, and I really enjoyed reading this book. I really had a great reading experience, or I'd say tremendous. It really gave a vivid imagery of World War II in France, which is something that I don't really get to hear much or being talked about, honestly, because whenever I personally hear about World War II in Europe, to be specific, the highlights are usually, let's say, in Germany or in Poland. So it's good for me to read something that is set in France during like the early 1940s, and how gave like a fictional historical account of how France got its freedom, from Germany during the World War II. And what I like about this book is that, usually when it comes to side stories, I'm not exactly a fan of if they don't contribute to the narrative. In this case, they did, like all the other, like the side romance that Isabel was like facing, and all the other like side stories from the other characters, the circumstances, situations that they were put into, they made sense to the overall, build of the narrative of this story, which is really amazing. And yes, this is something that I believe that will shatter your heart. It's, the sadness, the gloom, it was vividly, and the way it was synthesized, like the narratives in this one will just shatter your heart. Like it shattered mine, so we'll see if it will shatter yours. So if it's something that you would like to sign up for, definitely read The Nightingale. Thank you super much, Hailey and Bookland, for sharing this one. And yeah, awesome discussion, by the way, Readables. Let us now proceed to the 4.75 out of 5-star reads for 2020, and let us begin with The House of Hades, written by Ryorden. Now, this is the 4th book in the Heroes of the Olympus series. Now, I'd have to say that this was chunky, but majority of this book, like overall, the adventure, there wasn't any dull moment. The way that the challenges were synthesized, the setting, and all the other elements to like compose the entire narrative of this Fourth book is vividly and well done, and you can really feel yourself as if you are immersed into the setting, and that is if you are actually in the journey, and how you face all these like different situations, whether it's Leo or it is Frank, or it is whether it's Jason, or whether it is Piper or Hazel, or even if they're not exactly like the voice that is, or like the narrator, you can totally get yourself immersed. It's like when you are consuming another kind of media, it's like you are there in the medium itself. So yeah, the adventures were synthesized well. Give kudos to that. And another thing that I really liked about this one is like Annabeth and Percy, their relationship. The way that they synthesized and they created an imagery of how they really were there for each other was well done. It was seamlessly put into. So yeah, it's really great. And if you folks like join different like Rick Ryorden fandoms, Percy Jackson fandoms, I think it's kind of a given about Nico here. And that revelation, that shook me. Like literally, when I read that part, it's like I decided like, okay, let me put it down a bit, not because I felt bored, but because it was like, okay, hold on, wait, whoa. It's like, it was overwhelming in a way that it like shook me, but it was so good. Like it was a good way to get shook. And to me, that effect, that means that, pow, the words, like the way that you synthesize and wrote narrative here, it resonates, okay? It resonates to people, it makes an impact. And that's what makes a tremendous reading experience. Now, there are still some parts here. I think there was a little bit of an off part, so I only gave it 4.75 instead of like perfect 5. But yeah, that part, especially that part with Nico, I'm shook. And the final one for this list would be Sisters by Danielle Steele. Now, this book follows a story of course, from the title itself, a group of sisters, so there's 4 of them, and then something happens to one of their sisters, a tragic event, and from there you get to follow their journey and how they deal with the recovery and how they deal with the challenges of the aftermath of the situation that happened in their family. Now, what I like about this book is like the bond of the sisters were vividly done. You can see how they really care about each other and how you feel like you want to empower them. I think the way that it was written, the way that the situation was synthesized, it makes you feel certain emotions of like empathy, like you really want the best for their sisterhood. And the thing about this is because there's a tragedy that happened. Oh, by the way, a little warnings for if accidents, specifically car crash, bothers you. Okay, but still, if that is something that you can handle, then I definitely recommend you to read this book. And what I like about it, going back to the tragedy, despite having that, and of course the challenges, the dilemmas also were talked about, but it wasn't something that was like overly dramatically written. Sometimes what I notice when certain situations happen in certain books, like even with some of Danielle Steele's books, like when some of like the which is not exactly a bad thing, because it does make you feel something, which is what I really look for in a reading experience personally. And at the same time, this gave me a different kind of reading experience that was still spectacular. Basically, even with the challenges that we're encountering, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to solve too much about it. It's like they can bounce back right away without seeming like it is fake. It's just like seamlessly done. It seems like it was naturally done. And I think that is not necessarily, I know that I also give the benefit of that, but maybe sometimes some people kind of just easily recover. And I think just for this one, it was vividly and seamlessly done, like that kind of narrative or that kind of situation where it, for example, like with Annie, who by the way is the one who was involved in the tragedy, would, you know, have some complaints about, because she's kind of like the independent kind of girl, and then, you know, her sister's trying to help her out, and then sometimes Annie would, you know, go on a fit, but it wasn't something that was like overly like done in a way that it was a fit all along. It was a lot, there was a lot of screaming and stuff. It was kind of like, okay, you're making a fit, okay, her sisters are gonna go, and okay, so we'll just leave you there. Something like that. It wasn't something where it was too heavy, which was something that I enjoyed about in terms of my reading experience with Sisters. Now, the reason why I did not give this a perfect 5 is I feel that, and this is kind of unusual because usually with books like I prefer it being more concise, but for this one I felt like there should have been more towards the end. I wish that we have seen more about, you know, the what happens now with their new chapter, new year, just a little bit more of it. Probably if they wanted to keep this, like chunk this volume, they could have probably edited a little bit about the first parts, which also in some sense maybe that would be hard, because it will give you an idea about the situations and circumstances that each characters have, that would, you know, make sense to the overall narrative. And to me, like, I guess I would resort on, like, I wish this was just a little bit longer, just to see a little bit more like what happens after a year, in terms of what happened to their situations now, to each sister's situations. So those are the great reads that I had in 2020. Feel free to comment down below your great reads, some of your great reads. What was the book that brought you the best or the greatest reading experience? And yeah, I guess that's about it. If you folks made it to this part, feel free to leave a 100 emoji, because we're talking about, you know, great reads, tremendous reads, whatever you want to name it. So feel free to leave a 100 emoji. So I guess that's about it. If you folks like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon so we're down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And also putting down links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. As always, thank you super much for watching. Let us keep in our minds and our hearts to be loving and kind, always be thankful, and unleash the reader in you. Bye y'all.